Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I had shown this Simon Says Stamp Big Numbers stamp set in a recent haul. And the actual reason I'd ordered this set is the sample they had with the set. I had seen, they'd posted it in some of their sneak peek graphics leading up to Stamptember, and there was this one card that just caught my eye. I thought it was so pretty, and from what I know, either Debbie Hughes or Sherry Carroll made that card. I can't find it right now, like on a blog, so that I can link directly to it. You will see it when you click on my link to the Simon Says website. They have the card there. There's no name on it, so I'm not 100% positive, but just looking at it, it's one of theirs. They are fabulous card makers, and they make a lot of cards for the supplies for Simon and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, this card was inspired by that. I just love how the numbers were overlapping, and then there was the ink splatter and all that kind of stuff. And the other day, the idea was in the back of my mind, and then it just started to like, what if I did the date of Halloween and did it in Halloween colors? Like, how fun would that be? So that's what I'm doing here. So I've got some Tim Holtz Distress watercolor cardstock with the textured side facing up, and I treated it with my anti-static powder tool first. And as I was doing this, I was like, ooh, I'm probably gonna have to like stamp the first numbers, you know, not touching each other, and then heat emboss them so I don't get embossing powder everywhere, like just to get the layered look. And plus, on top of it, you can't see, or at least I could not see where I was stamping. Like once I'd stamped it, that's why I kept stamping the numbers and then pouring the embossing powder over them so I could actually see what I was doing, because I wanted the numbers like overlapping. But what I ended up doing was, even while the embossed powder was sitting there, I hadn't melted anything yet, I kept stamping the other letters, and the letters would pick up, or the numbers would pick up the little bits of embossing powder that I was stamping over, but it was okay. So again, you can barely see anything here until I kind of tilt it there in the light, but they're all just overlapping, but I made sure to keep them together. So like it still said like 31, 31 instead of just random 3s and random 1s. That wouldn't make any sense now, would it? So I did all the stamping first, poured all that embossing powder over them, and then heated all in one step. And it totally worked. And you still can't really see anything, but this is where the fun part comes in. So I've got 4 different distress inks in Halloween colors. And I started with black soot, and I just smushed my little mini distress ink pad onto just a piece of transparency acetate. I've had it sitting on my desk for a while, and I'm pretty sure that's why I had it sitting there. I couldn't remember why, but I was like, I think it was from the last time I did this. So I smushed the ink pad on there and then sprayed it with water, and then I'm just pressing it onto the cardstock here, and like the numbers that are all heat embossed are going to resist it. And even just like this, I love how that looks. Like this technique you could do in so many different colors. You could customize it obviously for someone's birthday, age, anniversary, retirement, like whatever. Like just a number set, you don't think when you look at it, it's like, this is so boring. You know, it's not cute little characters and sentiments and stuff, but it's actually like super useful. I get more use usually out of my numbers, dies, and stamps than I do out of all the other stamps I have, because I like to customize them for people. So this is just a fun way to use it, obviously, but I totally plan on using these more for just like birthdays, especially my kids, you know, to put their age on it, to customize and that sort of thing. So I kept doing this with all different colors. I was a little bit worried that they would end up going really muddy because, you know, I'm doing purple and green and black and orange, but it worked. It worked. I heat set the colors kind of in between each other so they weren't all wet, so they weren't given a chance to really muddy. And I applied quite a bit of color because I really wanted that splattery fun effect. And then I dried it one more time and set it aside. And then to create my sentiment, I die cut some vellum with one of the flag dies. And then I pulled out the Halloween dies that coordinate with the Trick or Treat stamp set that was released, gosh, a year or 2 ago. I think it's still available. I'm pretty sure. I will hopefully be able to link to it. But anyway, in that die set, there's this Halloween word, which is fabulous. So I die cut that from some black cardstock 3 times, and I left the one in the die, which I've shown multiple times lately, but I left the first one in the scrap cardstock to hold it in place so that I could adhere the other ones. And especially, this is the exact type of die I'm always talking about when doing this. It's so finicky and so finely detailed that it is hard to line up and get adhered. So this way made it so much quicker and easier. Even though I've sped up parts of this video to make it faster, this card honestly didn't take very long at all to make compared to some of my other cards anyway. So I adhered 3 layers of that together just using my multimedia matte adhesive. Then I'd popped it out of that scrap cardstock there. And then I lined it up on this piece of vellum so I could see where that die is going to go, so that I could stamp the word happy, that word is part of the big numbers stamp set. So I stamped that with the Simon Says Stamp clear ink again and embossed that with that same detail white embossing powder. Quickly melted that with my heat tool and then set that aside for a minute because as I was doing all this, I was like, ooh, I want to add a little something extra to the card itself. So I've got my white heavyweight cardstock as my card base, and I was looking like in the corner of my eye, I could see the Trick or Treat stamp set, and they had this border stamp with basically with stripes on it. So I took my white cardstock, scored it at 5.5 inches, so it'll be a top folding A2 cards, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Scored it with my Teflon scoring tool and pressed that down really well until it's good and flat. And then it was actually still, I hadn't cut it properly, but it was slightly bigger than this piece of cardstock, which was already 4 1/4 by 5.5. But that was fine because I want to trim off a tiny little bit anyway. So I decided to trim off about 1/4 inch off the edge of this watercolor splattered piece. And then I grabbed that stripe stamp and some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm going to stamp that just along the edge of the cardstock here. I thought about just adding a strip of striped pattern paper, but this was all handy sitting right in front of me, so I just grabbed it and did it this way. So once I got all of it stamped and cleaned off the extra VersaFine ink off of my work surface, and I'm trying to avoid that spot on the card too because VersaFine takes a little bit longer to dry. It can smear really easily. I love that ink, but that is my one pet peeve with it, is it can easily smear. So I figured out where I was going to place the vellum on my card front here, and I already, I folded over the edge and started applying adhesive, and then I was like, wait, I need to adhere the sentiment first. So I'm kind of working backwards. It was really late when I made this card. I was dropping things and I was tired, but the ideas were rolling and I just had to go with it. So I applied more multimedia matte to the back of the die cut sentiment and then pressed that onto the vellum here. And press that really, really well. And then I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to apply the same adhesive behind the embossing and behind the die cut words so that you can't see it from the front, because most adhesives, even ones that claim they work for vellum, out of personal experience, I've never found an adhesive that actually works with vellum. All the ones I've tried show up. Anyway, that's why I hide my adhesive. I just applied it behind the sentiments here so that you won't see them. Got that into place and then folded over that edge and pressed that down onto the back, and I just put an acrylic block over top of this and let that sit for a couple of minutes to completely set and be adhered. And then I used a generous amount of ATG on the back of this piece because it was warped from all of the heat embossing and everything. So I used a lot of the ATG, made sure to get all around the edges and a bunch in the center, and then I'm going to line this up on my card front and get that adhered down onto the card. And at this point, I decided I was going to keep the inside quite simple. I was kind of struggling with what I was going to do, what to stamp, what to do. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep it simple. You know, I wanted it clean and open. So all I did was grab that striped stamp again and inked it out with the same VersaFine Onyx Black and stamped it along the bottom of the inside of the card. And then I had that little leftover strip of watercolor paper with the colors of ink on it still. So I was like, ooh, I'll just adhere that over top and it'll be good. So I actually applied the adhesive directly to the card base instead of that strip because I didn't want the adhesive oozing everywhere, making a mess. So this just made it a little easier to do. Got that into place and did the same thing. I just put some acrylic blocks over that and let it sit for a minute just to get it adhered and flat to the inside of the card. Then I'm going to flip this over, trim off the pieces that are hanging over with my scissors using the edge of the cardstock as a guide, and that finished off my card. So here's a fun Halloween card using mostly non-Halloween stamps. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like I said, links will be in the description box below to my blog post, to other, all the supplies, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll have a couple links here to a couple of the last 2 videos in my Halloween series. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!